Hi folks, welcome back to Sidetracks Board Game Club. In February, my wife and I will be celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary. We've been married quite a long time. And over that period of time, there's a lot of things that we've disagreed about. But we were talking last night, and there's one thing that we definitely agree on. Neither one of us likes the month of August. It's just too hot. And one of the reasons I don't like August is because I tend to not play many games in August. I have a hard time justifying being indoors playing games when you can be outside and there's so much daylight out there. So I'm actually looking forward to the fall and the winter coming around. And recently we just posted a schedule for this fall and this winter, and we're going to be having 3 board game meetups every month in Elwood City. My buddy Corey and I have put a schedule together. We've been meeting the first Thursday of every month at Double Looks in Elport, and that's been going great. The people there have been fantastic, and they've welcomed us, and we've really enjoyed playing there. We're going to add to that a Wednesday night event once a month at Corey's church over on the north side of Elwood, and then we're going to also add in a game night the final Saturday of each month at our church, at the First United Methodist Church. So there'll be 3 opportunities every month to get together and play games. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about August being over and getting into football season and the cooler weather and getting to play some more board games. So in preparation for that, I thought what I would do is I'd put together a little list, board games from A to Z. My favorite games, starting with each letter of the alphabet. So here we go. My favorite game, starting with the letter A, is Age of Empires 3. This is a game that I got originally because I played the video game Age of Empires and I really loved it. It's kind of a civilization building game, and I really enjoyed it. And when I saw there was a board game version, I was like, I gotta try it. This is a worker placement game. You put dudes on the map, and each type of person does different things, and each little miniature is unique, and it's just a really cool game. Airlines Europe was a close second in this one, in the A's, because I really like that game. That's a game by Alan Moon, the inventor of Ticket to Ride. But Age of Empires, one of my favorite worker placement games ever. It's meaty enough to be very interesting, but it's not super rules heavy, so it's not hard to learn. For B, it was really tough. There's a lot of good games that start with B, but my number one game is Blockus. And this is a very simple game. It's easy to learn, it's quick to play. The only downside is I really think it only works with 4 players. You can play it with other player counts, but I only like it at 4. But it's such a good game, and it's the kind of game like you can play it a million times and never get tired of it. It's like Tetris. You have all these different shapes, and you're putting them out on the board at the same time the other players are putting them out on the board. And the board becomes more and more constricted as the game goes on. And essentially you're just trying to play as many of your pieces as you can, and they're trying to play as many of their pieces, and you're blocking each other, and whoever ends up, using up the most of their pieces is the winner. It's a fantastic game. I've played it many times, and it'll always be in my collection. For C, this is probably the hardest letter of the entire alphabet for me because there are so many great games that I love that start with C. Cascadia, Concordia, Council 4, all great. But for me, it's the OG Championship Baseball. This is strictly a 2-player game. I'm not even sure how you're supposed to play it out of the box. It's from the 1980s. It comes in a Parker Brothers Monopoly style box, one of those long square rectangular boxes. I actually have 2 copies, and I've gotten rid of the boxes and the boards a long time ago, and my brothers and I house ruled it and made up our own game out of it. But Championship Baseball is outstanding. You guys, if you've ever watched any videos on this channel before, you've heard me talk about it, and I'm looking forward to hopefully reinstating the Sidetracks Championship Baseball tournament each year. We did it one time when we had the brick and mortar shop down in Elwood. We did the Hack Wilson Memorial Tournament. We were hoping to make it annual. This year we didn't get an opportunity to do that, but I'm hoping to resurrect that and do a Championship Baseball tournament once a year because that was a really good time. Okay, at the risk of being a little self-serving here, I struggle with my favorite board game that starts with D is actually a game that's not published, and I'm calling it Drum Major. It's a game that I've been designing over the past year or so, and I really love the way that it's coming about. I think it's a really fun game. I just ordered a couple upgrades to my prototype, so I got cards made, and I also got a play mat made for it, so that the prototype will look a little better and it'll be a little more durable, because I've played it a bunch of times. It's starting to fall apart. But you know, like I said, it's a little self-serving to pick my own game, but I really like playing this game, and I'm hoping someday to be able to share it with a bunch of other people. As far as published games, my favorite D game is Discoveries: The Journals of Lewis and Clark. It's a really great dice placement, or it's kind of like worker placement, but you're using dice. The artwork is fantastic. It's just it's a beautiful game, historic theme. I love Discoveries: Journals of Lewis and Clark. All right, you're gonna have to use your imagination a little bit on this one, but my favorite E game is 1830. Now, when you look this up on BGG, it's not gonna come up as an E game. It's gonna come up with the numbers, but 18 starts with an E, so I'm counting it. 1830 is my favorite heavy game. It's a railroad, what's called an 18XX game. There's a bunch in this series of different years and different maps that use the same type of format, but you're buying and selling stocks in railroads, and then whoever is the majority shareholder gets to operate that railroad and build tracks, and you're trying to, you know, outmaneuver your opponents on the stock market, but also on the board in terms of building your railroads. It's a great game. The hardest part about it is it takes 5 to 6 hours to play, and it's really hard to get to the table. It's really not that complicated. People talk about 18XX games being difficult. It's not that hard to learn. There's a lot of other games I've played that have been way harder to learn than that, and I can teach it pretty quickly. It just takes a commitment to actually play through the whole thing. My favorite F game is a twofer, Founding Fathers. Founding Fathers is about the 1787 Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. The theme is amazing. The cards are amazing. Each card is a different delegate to the Constitutional Convention. And the awesome thing, whoever designed it, I think Jason Matthews was one of the designers, they did a great job of matching player abilities, or the delegate abilities, each card, to the person's actual role in the Constitutional Convention. So, you know, George Washington can basically, when you play him, you can stop all debate and end the round. You know, if you play anti-federalist, you're going to get more points for different anti-federalist faction things out on the board. There's one guy who showed up just at the end of the Constitutional Convention, basically did no work and just signed his name, and, you know, he was part of it. Well, his card, if you play it in the last round of the game, you're going to get points. So they just did a really great job. The more I play this game, the more I appreciate it, because when we first started playing, our strategies always tended toward trying to be the lead in a certain faction. And the more we've played it, we've realized that's probably not the way to go. And so we've been able to sort of uncover different strategies throughout the years as we played it. But Founding Fathers is great. My favorite G game is a game called The Grizzled. I don't count the, right? We're going to alphabetize this the way a librarian would. They don't count the. But The Grizzled is a World War I cooperative game. And I've never been huge on cooperative games. But again, this one, the theme is great. I love the lessons that you can learn and sort of teach from this game, because to win this game, it's very difficult. It's a simple card play, but it's a hard game to win. And in order to win this game, you really have to pay attention to your other players that you're playing with, your teammates, the people that you're working with. And you have to be able to provide support to the people who need it the most on your team, which goes right along with the World War I theme. You know, in order to survive in the trenches, you needed support from your buddies. And, you know, whoever needed support the most, you got to get it to them, or you're all going to die as a team. And this game is super hard to win, but it's a great theme and really fun to play. My H game is actually another cooperative game, and that's Horrified. I'm not big on horror themed games, or Halloween is one of my least favorite holidays actually, but the game Horrified I really like. It's got all the classic movie monsters like the Mummy and the Creature from the Black Lagoon and Dracula, and you are working together as a team to try to knock out these different monsters before they terrorize your town. And the thing I like the most about this game is that each monster has to be approached differently. The way you beat them is different. And so you can use different combinations of monsters each game. And some of them are a little bit easier, some of them are a little bit harder. And you can tweak the complexity and the difficulty level of the game by picking different monsters. But also each one, you have to approach them differently. And so it makes for a really fun game, and it could be really challenging, but it's, again, not super rules heavy, so it's a fun one. I don't have a ton of games that start with the letter I, but one of my favorites is a Phil Walker Harding game called Imhotep. And this is a set in ancient Egypt, and you're building the pyramids and obelisks and different things of architecture. And what you're doing in this game is you're loading stones onto your boat, and then you're sailing those boats into these different ports to build different buildings. And it's just a really cool game. It's very simple. There's probably, I think, 3 or 4 decisions you can make on each turn. There's a bunch of different ways to score points. It scales well. I think it's best at 3 or 4 players. You can play it at 2, but I think it's best at 3 or 4. And it's just a really solid game. It's a really good sort of gateway game for people who aren't into super complex games but want to try something that's a little bit different than anything they've ever done. And one of the cool things about it is there's each section of the play area, each building that you're building scores differently and has sort of a different spatial aspect to it. And so the way it forces your brain to think is pretty neat. It's just a really great design. J is my first party game on the list, and my daughter Virginia will be happy to hear this, but my favorite J game is Just One. And this is a really simple game. It's sort of like a password type game where you're trying to get somebody you're giving them clues and they're trying to come up with the word. But you're only allowed to use just one. The word that they're trying to guess is just one word, and me as the clue giver, I'm only allowed to give just one clue, and I write it down on my little whiteboard. But the trick to the game is all the other players are doing the same thing simultaneously, and before we share our clues, we have to show them to each other. And if any of us match, then the person trying to guess doesn't get to see that. So if, the word is McDonald's and somebody puts cheeseburger and somebody puts French fries, right? And then another person puts French fries, well, no, they don't get to see French fries. All they get to see is cheeseburger, right? And so you're trying to come up with unique words that are unique enough that somebody else isn't going to say the same thing, but you don't want to necessarily give up on the obvious clues because those are the ones that are going to make it the easiest for the person to guess. So it's just a really fun party game. We don't even keep score. We just play. There was one day down at the shop where we sat and played this game for about 8 hours straight because we went through the whole deck with expansions, and different people would come into the shop and jump in and then jump out when they had to go, and we just had this continuous running game all day long and played through the whole thing, and it was outstanding. My favorite K game is a game that I'm not particularly good at. I maybe have won it once or twice, and I get very frustrated at times because I want to be good at it, but I'm not, and that's Craftwagon. Craftwagon is a game that just got a reprint. I haven't played the new one, so I'm not sure if that the rules have changed or anything. I have an older version, but Kyle, my son Kyle, really likes this game. And in this game, you are different auto manufacturers, and you can hire engineers to be part of your team, and you're trying to build the best engines and the best car bodies. And then you're also using this test track area, and you're trying to sell these cars to different people to score points. And it's just a really fun game. It has what's called a rondelle system, which I don't have many games that do that. but it's basically the kind of thing where there are a whole bunch of different options of things you can get or do on your turn, and you can jump up in line as far as you want in order to take whichever one you want. But that means you're probably not going to get a turn again anytime soon, because the person that's at the end of the line gets to go next. And so if you jump way forward and pick something that's really good, a really good action, then they may get 2 or 3 turns before you get to go again. And so it makes for some really interesting decisions. It makes for some really tough decisions, but it's a great game. L's another tough one. One of the tougher letters to figure out because there's so many good L games. We've played Love Letter a million times. Lost Cities, I've played Lost Cities on my phone more than any other game I have on my phone. But my number one L game is Lords of Waterdeep. And this is a great worker placement game. It's a great intro worker placement game. I'm not into D&D, so the theme doesn't really do much for me, but it's got a D&D theme if people are interested in that. But really what you're doing is you're putting workers out on the board to gather resources, and you're using those resources to go on adventures and quests. The expansion to this game, Scoundrels of Skullport, makes it even better because it adds a corruption track. And so you can go do some really great actions, but you're going to take corruption. You're going to become more corrupt if you do those things. And so there's this balancing act, like, do I want to go do those awesome things, but at the same time do something that might cause me to lose points in the end? Is it worth the risk? And what the other players are doing can also have an impact on that decision, because if they're all doing the really great actions and taking lots of corruption, you feel like you're getting way behind because they're going on all these great quests, but the corruption doesn't really kick in until the end of the game. So they may come back to you because they're going to lose lots of points at the end for corruption, whereas you're clean. So it's a really it takes the game and sort of ramps it up and makes it even better. There's no question what my M game was going to be. This is my new favorite darling game that I've been playing a lot, and that's Memoir 44. Memoir 44 is a 2-player game, and it's based on World War II. There's a bunch of expansions that I have for it. The Mediterranean Theater, where you get to play North Africa. I have the Battle of the Bulge Theater. I have the Pacific, which I haven't played yet, but I'm looking forward to playing, because you can play Wake Island and Peleliu and Guadalcanal and Iwo Jima. But there are books that come with, there's a book that comes with the game. There are some that you can download online, and then there's a book that comes with each expansion. And the board is modular, so each scenario that you play, you set it up for a different battle. And each side has a different advantages or disadvantages based on the historical scenario. And sometimes the Germans have an advantage, and sometimes the Allies have an advantage. So what you do is you play it, and you might score, 5-2 or whatever, the Allies win. And then you switch sides and you play it again. And maybe that time the Allies win 5-4. And so then you add your scores together and see who the ultimate winner is. But we've been tracking all the gameplays of this to see which scenarios are the most balanced. So there's lots of stats that we've been doing behind the scenes that make it even better. Anything you can keep stats on is good in my book. But it's great. I try to get it to the table as much as possible. There's an Operation Overlord way of playing it, where you can actually play an 8-player game. So you have 3 generals on the Allied side and a Supreme Allied commander who's basically giving them cards, giving them orders. And then you have the same thing on the German side, or the Axis side. You have 3 field generals, 1 controlling each sector of the board, and then an overall commander there. And I've been trying to teach this game, the 2-player version, to as many people as possible, so that eventually we can build up to playing 8. We're not quite there yet, but this winter, that's going to be one of my goals, is to get an 8-player Operation Overlord game of Memoir 44 in. You'll have to forgive me if you see like bugs flying around and crawling on my my ears and on the video recording and everything, or if I'm sweating here, but my kids have soccer practice tonight, and rather than drive home and then come back and pick them up, I figured, well, I'll just sit in the park and record a video. Plus it might thunderstorm, so I wanted to be close enough that if the storms roll in, I can pick them up. But it's not the most pleasant evening to be out. It's about 80 degrees and probably 80% humidity. So like I said, August is not my favorite. I'm looking forward to the board game months coming up. My favorite end game is another worker placement game. As you can tell, I like worker placement as a board game sort of mechanism. But this game's called New Bedford, and it's based on whaling. The theme revolves around whaling. Reminds me of when we went on vacation. We visited Mystic Seaport in Connecticut, and New Bedford is Massachusetts, is real close to Mystic. But in this game, you are whaling ships, and you're going out to sea. You're outfitting your ships, and you're going out and you're trying to get humpback whales and bowfin whales and right whales. And there are different buildings you can build in the town to score points as well. So you're sort of building up your village, and you're going whaling. Some people might be put off by the theme, but I figure it's okay to kill whales in a board game as long as you're not doing it in real life, right? That's a bygone era that is gone, right? But I don't see how playing that in a board game is doing any harm. But anyway, New Bedford's a really good game. Again, pretty basic worker placement game, not hard to learn, but a lot of fun. My O game is, again, a game I play a lot on the app on my phone. The app for this game is great. I don't play many games on my phone, but On Tour is one that I do. And this is a game from All Play. I actually played it for the first time at the Origins board game convention. And as soon as I played it, I'm like, oh man, I got to get this game. It's a little puzzle. It's a roll and write. But it's got a map on one side of the United States that you can play, and then a map on the other side of Europe, and you're a band trying to do gigs in as many different places as possible. But really what you're doing is rolling dice and putting numbers on a map, and then you're doing sort of a connect the dots to try to connect up as many numbers as possible. And it's just super fun. It's kind of a brain burner puzzle. Some people don't really care for it, but I love it. So I mentioned that out of all the letters in the alphabet, C was probably my hardest to come up with to make a decision, because there's so many good games that start with C. The letter P was probably my second most difficult because of Power Grid and Puerto Rico, Pandemic, Pioneer Days. There's so many good games that start with the letter P. But my favorite is Parks. Part of that is because of the theme. Joanne and I have been to over 100 national parks and national historic sites. It's something that we've been doing together since we met, really. And this game has great artwork. Your hikers, which we love hiking as well, but your hikers going to visit these different national parks, and there's different tokens that you use to essentially buy the park or visit the park. And so the artwork is super captivating. We bought an expansion for it. Sometimes when you get these expansions, it adds another layer of rules and complexity that can actually detract from the game. We haven't played with the expansion enough yet that it's become automatic. So I need to get it to the table more so I can get comfortable with that expansion. But Parks is great. They just came out with a new version of it. I don't know how much different it is. My understanding is that it could have, I think they built in some of the expansions into the new version of the game. So I don't know about that. The artwork has changed. I can't imagine I'd like it better than the original, because I love the original so much, but Parks is a great game. One of the disadvantages of being here in the park is that I don't get the whole park to myself. There's apparently a picnic going on here, and so my apologies if you hear car doors slamming or noise in the background. Normally this park is pretty quiet on weeknights, but for tonight apparently there's something going on. So my favorite Q game is a little game from Gamewright called Quicks. And I really like Gamewright games because they tend to be light. They're good filler games. They're easy to teach. But Quicks is just a little dice game. It's another roll and write where you're rolling dice, you're crossing numbers off of a list, and you're trying to score the most points. It's real easy to learn. It's quick to play. perfect filler game or perfect game, you know, if you're sitting around waiting to start your game night, maybe one or two people are coming late. But like so many Gamewright games, it's just a really good, solid, easy game. I mentioned that I'm not really a D&D guy. I'm not a RPG role-playing guy. But my next game, which starts with R, is actually a D&D theme too, and that's Role Player. I've played D&D once or twice, and my favorite part about playing games like that is creating the character. You know, rolling the dice, devising the backstory, making up a dude. You know, that's my favorite part. Well, this board game Role Player is all about that. The whole idea is you're trying to create a character with different attributes. You know, so it might be you're looking for somebody with lots of strength and low dexterity or great wisdom and intelligence or whatever, and it gives you some indications of whether your person is sort of a good guy or a bad guy, what character traits you should be, you know, shooting for. There's different types of equipment and weapons that you can outfit your dude with, but essentially you're trying to score the most points by making the best character. I guess my understanding is there are some expansions where you can actually take the results of this game and play with them and go on adventures. I think it's called Role Player Adventures. I haven't tried that. Might be cool. But I really enjoy this game just for the sort of character development, because that was my favorite part of it when I played D&D anyway. So Role Player is a really good one. There are tons of good games that start with S as well. Seven Wonders is an all-time favorite. Stone Age is a great worker placement game, but I got to give the nod for my S game to Sushi Go. It's just such a great little card game. I've probably introduced this game to more people than just about any game that I've played. I actually have 2 copies at home, and I take it all over the place with me when I go places. It's an easy game to learn. The cards have the scoring right on the card, so it's really easy to teach. I don't even like Sushi, but Sushi Go is a great game. For T, the nod's got to go to Ticket to Ride. There's a bunch of variants of Ticket to Ride. I like them all. I like the base game. I like Nordic. I can't say I like them all. There's one or two that I tried that I didn't care for too much. I don't really like the small ones. They've come out with like Ticket to Ride San Francisco. I think there's a New York. I guess as a travel game, if you're playing a hotel room or something, they'd be fine. But they're just not the same as a full game of Ticket to Ride. One of my favorite versions is the Pennsylvania version, because it's got some stocks in it as well. Now, this was close. The trekking series, Trekking the World, Trekking through the National Parks, Trekking through History are all good games too. But it's tough to beat Ticket to Ride. I'm going to cheat a little bit for the game U, because I don't have a lot of games that start with the letter U. And the game that I'm going to pick is a game that I haven't actually played yet. But I have a feeling that I'm going to love it when I play it. And it's on my shelf. I got it in a trade. It's a World War II game called Undaunted. My buddy Mark has Undaunted Normandy. The game that I got in the trade is called Undaunted North Africa. And similar to Memoir 44, one player plays as the Axis, the other player plays as the Allies. But where Memoir is a dice-driven game, there's a lot of luck, a lot of randomness involved. My understanding is Undaunted is more of a card-driven game. Now, there could still be plenty of randomness in that too, but I really got to get this to the table and give it a try, because I think I'm going to love Undaunted once I get around to playing it. The higher you go in the alphabet, the tougher it gets, because it seems that there are fewer and fewer games, at least in my collection, that start with these letters. So for V is going to be sort of another cheat. It's a game in my collection called Venture by Sid Saxon. Sid Saxon is sort of an OG board game designer. He designed Acquire, which is a really great game. But Venture is a card game where you're building different conglomerates. I've read through the rules 2 or 3 times, hoping to get it to the table. I think my son Levi would really like it, because he's an economics major, and it just seems like something that would be up his alley. But we still haven't had a chance to play it. So U and V back to back are double cheats, where it's games that I have in my collection, but I haven't actually got to play yet. So V is for Venture. All right, W is not going to be a surprise to anybody that's ever played games with me or watched any of my videos. But my favorite game, and this is probably my favorite game of all time, is Wingspan. I have every expansion that's ever been made so far for Wingspan. As soon as Elizabeth Hargrave comes out with another expansion for Wingspan, I will be buying it. We play Wingspan all the time. We've upgraded and tricked out our Wingspan version with all kinds of special pieces and different things. We've kind of customized the game by taking bits and pieces from all the different expansions and cobbling them together into sort of our own homebrew version of the game for the pieces that we like. It's just a great game. I love the theme. They've come out with a dragon version, Wormspan, and they've come out with something in the same line called Finspan that's got fish. That's supposed to be a little bit different. I guess the dragon version is pretty similar to Wingspan, but for me, I don't know why you'd want to play anything that birds are better than any of that. So I'm not buying Wormspan, I'm not buying Finspan, I'm going to stick to the birds. Now you might think that I'm going to cheat with X because I had such a hard time with U and V coming up with games, but actually X was a piece of cake because Xi'an the Terracotta Army is one of my favorite games. In this game you're playing cards and you are trying to impress the Chinese emperor by helping construct the Terracotta Army and paint the soldiers and equip them with different weapons, and it's a great game. My only drawback to this game is that I just don't get it to the table enough. I want to play it more. I tend to play it pretty infrequently, and each time I kind of have to relearn the rules and refigure out some strategy. And I just played it a week or two ago, and I was like, man, we got to play this more. This game is great. So I originally came across the game because I saw it on somebody's list of underrated games, and so I went out and found a copy and bought a used copy of it, and boy, that dude was right. Xi'an the Terracotta Army is fantastic. All right, my Y game, I could only find one Y game that I think I've ever played, and so it's got to be Yahtzee. I'm not a big fan of Yahtzee, to be honest with you, but it would have to be my number one Y game because it's the only Y game I've played. But I have played some good games with Yahtzee, what are called Yahtzee mechanisms, and so maybe this my Y can take the play, can be sort of a stand-in for any games that have a Yahtzee mechanism. And what that means is you roll the dice, you can keep a few that you like, you can roll them again, keep a few and roll them again. Like King of Tokyo is a game that I like a lot better than Yahtzee, but it has that Yahtzee mechanism, so it's something that's been carried over into other games. All right, so here's the grand finale, the letter Z. And you know what I found out? Going through my collection, going through all my stats on BGG, going through everything I have, I don't think I've ever played a board game that starts with the letter Z. Can you believe it? I think it's the only letter that I don't even have a game that starts with Z. I've never played a game that starts with Z, and so the challenge for all these game sessions that we have this winter, the Thursday nights at Double Looks, the Wednesday nights at Bell Memorial, and the Saturday nights at Elwood First United Methodist Church. One of the challenges is going to be somebody's got to bring me a game that starts with Z. Now, I've heard Zooloretto is a good game. I have a game called Coloretto. I don't know how closely that is, and that one's a card game with chameleons on it. It's a good little card game. I don't know if Zooloretto is similar, but my challenge that I'm putting out to all of you is at one of these game nights, at least one of them, somebody's got to find a game that starts with Z, a good game, and bring it to these game nights so that I can finish this list. All right? We'll see you there.